take the trials that you've been through and all the times life made you blue. Search down deep within yourself. Oh, make it medicine for someone else, someone else. Share the joys you wish you know. Hold on to the tears that you share. Bottle them with care as though for yourself. Oh, make it medicine for someone else, someone else. You gotta go on, and it's hard, I know. Sometimes the way you see it grow, it's for you not to take it personal, 'cause it's not about yourself. Yes, it's hard to face when you suffer for someone else. Share the battles, good and bad. The hardest trials you've ever had. Take all the trophies, take them off the shelf. Oh, make it medicine for someone else, someone else. Gotta go on, and it's hard, I know. Sometimes the way you see love grow, it's for you not to take it personal, 'cause it's not about yourself. Yes, it's hard when you suffer for someone else. Take all the trials you've been through, the hardest things you had to go through. Take all the trophies, take them off the shelf, yeah, yeah. Oh, make it medicine for someone else, someone else. Someone else, someone else. Take the trials that you've been through and all the times life made you blue. Search down deep within yourself. Oh, make it medicine for someone else, someone else. Share the joys you wish you know. Hold on to the tears that you share. Bottle them with care as though for yourself. Oh, make it medicine for someone else, someone else. You gotta go on, and it's hard, I know. Sometimes the way you see it grow, it's for you not to take it personal, 'cause it's not about yourself. Yes, it's hard to face when you suffer for someone else. Share the battles, good and bad. The hardest trials you've ever had. Take all the trophies, take them off the shelf. Oh, make it medicine for someone else, someone else. You gotta go on, and it's hard, I know. Sometimes the way you see love grow is for you not to take it personal, 'cause it's not about yourself. Yes, it's hard when you suffer for someone else. Take all the trials you've been through, the hardest things you had to go through. Take all the trophies, take them off the shelf, yeah, yeah. Oh, make it medicine for someone else, someone else. Someone else.
Basketball is back, and BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season. You'll always find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. And as your continued source for all sports wager information, BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and giveaways all season long. Always the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports and events, whether that's NFL, NBA, NHL, MMA, tennis, boxing, or even golf. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV to receive your rewards. It's BetOnline, where the game starts. Tell them the Noisemaker sent you.
Popcorn World. Popcorn World. Popcorn World. Yeah.
Can I make you move now? Yes, I can. So you can get this groove in the back of a can. But to make it round the world, man, the holes in your hand. Popcorn World. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. I said popcorn make you smile. Ah. Popcorn World. Popcorn World. Popcorn World. It's a popcorn world. It's a popcorn world. What's that saying? Breaking down the rumor and smelling out. Speaking for the people who must go around. Taking truth to power with a whisper and a shout. We're talking noise. Oh yeah, talking noise. Hey yeah, say it again, say we're talking noise. Yeah, talking noise. Really don't have to fool around. Never noise keeps us lined up. When truth divine, the sign that you need is a sign of success. We're talking noise. Oh yeah, talking noise. Yeah, picking up all the same. We're talking noise. Oh yeah. Talking noise. Say it again. We're talking noise.
Welcome to Talkin Noise, the daily podcast that brings you up to speed and keeps you informed about real issues affecting real people. With your host, Mr. Talkin Noise himself, Lloyd Spitz. His beautiful wife, Mrs. Noise, Kenyatta Spitz. The ever-informed Brother Noise, Alan Brown. And yours cordially, Uncle Noise, Shake Anderson. Come on in and join us as we reveal and opine today's most pressing issues. Real truth while having real fun. Talkin NOIZ is in your house right now. So sit back and enjoy Talkin NOIZ.
If your heart is broken and your spirit's wounded, you feel like no one is there for you. Have your troubles brought you tears? Pain, doubt, and fear. You don't know what to do. Hear the word of the Lord saying, be healed. Be healed. Rise, take up your bed, and go on to do His will.
Last night, during a Monday night football game, a classic Monday night football game that we thought we'd see some of the best players in the world compete at the highest level, and we were watching that essentially. 6 minutes, with 6 minutes and 15 seconds left in that game, Joe Burrow, the quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals, dropped back for a pass that he threw to a wide receiver named T. Higgins. T. Higgins caught the ball and was on a crossing route and was tackled by a young safety, 24-year-old sixth-round pick, Damar Hamlin. Upon tackling him, Damar immediately stood up and then collapsed to the ground. It was in that moment, it was in that collapse that the entire nation, the entire sports world, the entire world in general, United States in general, may be changed forever. Because now, instead of talking about a football game and talking about a competitive game that we all wanted to see and enjoy and how it affected the playoffs and all those things, we're now collectively coming together to pray and believe and hope for a young man who is literally sitting in a Cincinnati hospital right now fighting for his life. So tonight we decided, instead of trying to make you laugh, instead of trying to make you smile, we wanted to try to see if we could help you understand and maybe bring some emotional and spiritual and mental healing. Because there's not a lot of places you're going to be able to go where you can have an open forum and have a good conversation. And more importantly, there's not a lot of great places you can go where you got good people like this to have the conversation with. And so tonight, Mama Noise is here. We got C Major from the Five, the executive producer of the Five. He's here. Al B is here. We got a couple other guests that are hopefully going to be coming in tonight. And we just want to talk. And we welcome those of you who are coming to this show for the very first time. Welcome. And you are welcome to put in the chat your information, to have the conversation with us. You can engage us and ask questions. We'll do our best with with knowledge that we have and understanding that we have. If you have questions, we'll do answer to them to the best of our understanding and ability. But we just want to talk tonight and have a conversation about this great young man who by all practical purposes, is even better than we thought. Now, I'll be full disclosure and transparent. Prior to last night, I had no idea who he was. I'm not a Buffalo Bill fan per se, though I do like several players on their team. But I'm not a diehard fan that I know the roster upside down, inside and out. But that's not what you feel on a day like this today. So for me personally, I've been a journalist in the sports world for about 10 years now. I've written for several different publications and as well as worked for ESPN Radio. And so for me, I feel connected to that world. I feel connected to athletes all over the world, and it's a family. It's a family. Uh, and so when something like this happens, you don't have to know the person to feel the pain. And then the human side of it all is that last night, ladies and gentlemen, we watched in real time a young man collapse and have a cardiac arrest right there on a football field. Football's a violent game, and there's no doubt about that. We all love it. We all love to watch it. But this was always a possibility. It has never been a time in the history of this sport where this could not have happened. Now, those safety measures have gone forward to try to protect the players. The truth of the matter is, based on what we think has taken place, this is an unprecedented, unbelievable, and improbable set of circumstances that have taken place. We'll get more into that as the show goes on. But our thoughts and our prayers and our hopes go out to the Hamlin family tonight. We are believing God, and we're going to be real naked tonight on some things. We are believing God that this young man is going to leave that hospital sooner rather than later, and he's going to leave that hospital in good health. We're believing God for the best possible outcome that can take place. And so with that being said, I welcome you guys into the show. Chad Major, Mama Noise, Al B. I hope I did you proud on that intro because I didn't know what I was going to say. I honestly didn't know what I was going to say because I don't know how to frame something like this. If I'm being honest, I'll tell you, I'll start and say this, and you guys can jump in wherever. For me, the level of shock that I was in when I saw it and am still in now, and just the raw emotion that I feel behind this, because I don't understand it, though I have educated myself considerably over the last 24 hours, it's still hard to fathom what is taking place and that it is real. That in my lifetime, I watched a player pass out and literally have a cardiac arrest and had to be administered CPR for almost 10 minutes on a football field. I can't, my mind won't allow me to grab hold of that and make sense of it. And so I'll be honest, again, I'm going to be very transparent with you all tonight. I am struggling big time mentally and emotionally because the human side of me is hurting. The journalistic side of me is trying to understand. So I turn it over to Mama Noise, Al, C Major, what you guys want to say about it. Welcome, by the way.
There's really not a lot more that we can add that you haven't already spoken about. At least let me speak for myself. There's not much more that I can add, other than what you've already spoken about and what all the other uh, broadcasters have touched on. It's it's a sad day in the sports world. For some of us who are older, we've seen things similar to this before.
Yeah.
We've seen, we can recall, at least I can recall, Hank Gathers.
Yeah. That was the first name that popped in my head, Al. Yeah.
So, but it's a sad day in the sports world, and I echo your sentiment that our prayers are in in favor of that young man. We sending up sincere prayers for his family, his mother, who had to witness that
Yes.
in person, and I think that's a blessing. I
Yeah.
also think it's a blessing that it happened where it did, and he was with who he was with. I think back I guess now 7 years ago when I had my heart attack. Uh, I could have been home alone that very morning, or I could have been somewhere else by myself. But I was fortunate enough to be in the presence of other people, and I was able to get care quickly. And so again, it's fortunate that he was in that environment where there was medical staff on site. The ambulance was already there, so he was able to get professional medical care, top line trauma care almost instantaneously. So, but our prayers go out to Damar, Hamlin, his teammates, the NFL organization in its entirety, all teams, all players who now have to somewhere in their conscience, this will always be present. Now we're left speculating that this, it was be due to the contact that he and Ty, the collision that he and Ty Higgins made. We don't know that. I mean, at this point, those facts have not been given to us.
Right.
It may be the case, but we're left speculating, and so I pray that it was not a undetected heart disease, and now he has to deal with that for the rest of his life. Lloyd, you and I share a friend who is a licensed nurse, and on her Facebook page, she had mentioned something about when your chest takes impact like that at the exact moment of your heart rhythm, that it could cause a cardiac arrest. So, maybe that's what took place, maybe not. But again, we pray for that young man. And 24 years old, you don't anticipate an elite athlete. You figure NFL players are in the top 1 to 2% as far as conditioning and physical prowess, top 1 to 2%. So he was in prime physical shape, and so it puts you closer in touch with mortality. It lets you know that life is not guaranteed. They used to say, "Here today, gone tomorrow." It's now here today, gone today. So we pray as that young man is fighting for his life, that God shows him favor and that he recovers quickly and is restored 100% of his health. That's my prayer.
Chad, I want you to jump in there and say a few words here. And then the heart and soul of our show is Mama Noise. So I definitely want her to speak, especially from that mother's perspective. But Chad, jump in there real quick. Tell us what your thoughts, man. What are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm pretty, similar to you guys that's already, said something, man. It's still weighing heavy on the heart because in real time, when you saw it, you called me.
Right.
Right. And then we kind of like saw it at the same time, and it was just like, it was disbelief. So, I mean, never seen something like that happen. It looked like a routine play, and turns out it was something more, and it's just shocking, man. It's shocking for everybody involved, and it's praying for everybody involved, both teams, both organizations. Definitely T. Higgins and his family, and also Hamlin and his family and his mother. it's just tough all the way around, man. And we're just sitting here waiting just to see what happens next.
You know what, Chad? To your point you just made, that's exactly what it feels like. It feels like we're all collectively in America's waiting room, waiting to hear something, just anything, waiting for the thumbs up of the move out of the arena to let us know, hey, I'm good.
Yeah.
And man, every minute that goes by that you don't get it, bro, it's like, it's unnerving. It's really unnerving.
Yeah, it's just definitely a tough situation. Like Al said, I've been through a couple of health scares myself where if somebody wasn't there, it could be a real grave situation. So I definitely sympathize with that situation, and a mother worrying about her kid and what's going to happen next. So it's definitely something that who cares about the games at this point? We just want to figure out what's going on with him and making sure he's okay, and all that other stuff will work itself out. But definitely praying for everybody involved. Just waiting at this point, waiting and praying.
Yeah, and to Tara's question, you know what, Tara, I had forgotten about that. I'm so glad you brought that up because you're right. We have seen this in the boxing ring a few times actually. And I didn't think I had forgotten about that match, but you're right. That is another one of those moments where you went. Now I was so young when that one went down. It's hard to remember. I remember it, but I don't I kind of vaguely remember it. So it didn't affect me maybe as much as some of the more modern things. Definitely the Hank Gathers thing threw me for a loop. I was not prepared for that at all. But yeah, that's another great example of this unprecedented. Well, this thing. Mama Noise, you like I said before, you are the heart and soul of our show. A lot of times it's your passion and your emotion that brings a different sensibility and balance to us, and we appreciate that very much. You've been with me all day as we have tried to process all of this in real time. What are your thoughts?
Well, I remember, I don't know if I've ever shared this. Once upon a time, my brother Mahana his high school football team was playing in DuPont Manual Magnet High School's stadium. A little old stadium, nothing like it is now, but it was a stadium, and they were playing. I don't even know who they were playing. They weren't playing. They just used our stadium. So my brother is playing in a football game. I'm at the game. All of a sudden, my brother's a running back. He has the ball. He gets hit. And he doesn't get back up. He's unconscious. Now I'm in college at this time, but because my brother's younger than me. When my brother was hit and knocked unconscious, I jumped. I don't even know where that adrenaline came from. I jumped up, skipped over banister everywhere. Yeah. I skipped over all that, and I ran to the field. Now that was my brother. I mean, he's alive and well and kicking, and all is well functioning. He's fine. But I'm saying that was my brother. So as a mother, I can't imagine how his mother felt. Other than trying to get to her baby. Grateful that there were people that were not standing around looking and waiting on somebody else to come and do something about it. Grateful that somebody recognized that this was a situation that would require the thank God for the defibrillator. Thank God for those that recognize that this is not just somebody unconscious. This is someone who needed critical care immediately on site. So it's a wealth of emotion, because I mean, I'm being taken back to when my brother, you know, I'll never forget, it was a loud crash. And then my brother was unconscious, but now he had a concussion, but not in comparison to what happened to this young man. I'm just saying that.
No. Honestly, Mama Noise, that's a perfect scenario that you're presenting, because last night, that's what everyone thought. Like, everyone thought he's got a concussion. He's probably, he probably just hit his head. And I think he did kind of hit his head on the way down anyway, after he stood up and came back down. So we're thinking, okay, he's got a concussion. They'll go through, get him off the field, go through the protocols. We'll be all good. And then the longer it went on, you were like, yo, this doesn't feel like a concussion. And then when you saw the players starting to gather around, and they created that purposeful need circle around him, so you couldn't see really into the circle, it took a whole different thing. And the tears, oh my God, the tears of those guys was just astonishing. So listen, I told you guys from the beginning, we're going to do the best we can to educate you and to bring you some information tonight. I could not think of anybody, and I mean anybody, better than my brother. He is a professional extraordinaire. He's been doing this for what, 20 plus now?
20 plus.
Yeah, 20 plus years. He's an athletic trainer, and now he has become an athletic trainer to the athletic trainers. So I'm gonna mess with him a little bit just to bring a little levity tonight. This is Dr. Danny Cobble joining us tonight. Well, listen, I'm just proud of you, brother. That's all it is. It's all it is.
I'm still about this far away.
But you're right there. You're not gonna do it.
Yeah. Look, I had to, I had to take all the papers off my desk so it looked like I was kind of organized, but it was
that's good, brother. Well, first of all, I know you're working on a lot of things and some very, very important things. So the fact that you took your time tonight to join us now, you know I deeply appreciate it. I owe you lunch tomorrow, so that's on me. I got you. And
you heard him say that, Ken. So I
got you. I promise you. I got you. I'm gonna take care of you. I will come through with you, brother. But I just wanted to have you here tonight because so full disclosure. I told you we're doing full transparency. Last night, the 5 brothers got together and we were trying to process this last night. Reggie and myself and Chad, we're processing this on the phone and we're talking and we're trying to figure out, what is this? How does this happen? And you got all these mixed emotions and questions. And God knew that we didn't have no answers and no expertise in the room. And so he said, let me send Danny to call Lloyd and they can have a conversation. So I got Danny called me. Hey, man, that's the perfect person. Get in this conference call. We need you in to answer some questions. So we're going to answer some questions for you guys here in real time now. So I'm going to start at the very beginning and say, in your medical 20-year expertise, your initial thought was when you saw what happened?
Oh, I knew exactly. It was commotio cordis. It was a textbook presentation. I say commotio cordis, but the reality is, in generally, what we call it is sudden cardiac arrest. All right. And so under sudden cardiac arrest, there are several different incidences that could happen, but that mechanism of injury, blunt force trauma to the chest, usually is the telltale sign for commotio cordis. And so initially when I saw it, that was my initial thought. And so after I saw the video of the athletic trainers kind of playing around with a space mask and looking in, I knew then that they didn't have breath sounds or, agonal breathing. And so at that point, everything kicked into high gear for them. And so in my head, I'm starting to run through like, all right, you're doing this, you're checking this, you're checking this, you're doing this, you're doing this. And for what I could see, obviously I wasn't on the field. So I had the same kind of feed that everybody else had, once they came back and, the players had surrounded them. That's kind of, like I've heard a lot of commentators talking about the looks on their faces and this, you could tell it was different, but for us, those that are in the athletic training world or the sports medicine world, we look for different things. Like we don't look at faces, right? So the moment I saw backs turned and the wall go up, that's kind of a universal sign in sports and for players for privacy. Like there's something going on. We're cutting jerseys off. There's bleeding. There's a big bones. There's something. And so it's privacy. And so at that point, I knew that they were really into some heavy stuff.
So just be clear, so everyone understands the term you use, commotio cordis.
Mm-hmm.
It is a blunt force, and again, I told you guys I got educated a lot over the last 24 hours. It is a blunt force trauma to the chest.
So
in the same timing of the arrhythmia of the heart. Am I close? Did I get close?
Yeah. Yes. So commotio cordis is the condition.
It's a condition. Okay.
The condition. All right. And the condition has a cause or what we call a mechanism of injury. How did the injury happen? All right. And so that mechanism of injury is blunt force trauma at the right millisecond before the polarization of the T phase of the EKG. And it sends the heart, instead of a contraction, it sends it into a quiver, ventricular fibrillation. And at that point, that's where when they go to feel the pulse may be really faint, really weak, or not at all. And obviously, if you don't have a heartbeat or a pulse, you don't have breath sounds. And so at that point, you start going into emergency cardiac resuscitation. So
talk about how, because I don't think people understand, and I'm sure that, and I've been listening all day, and I said, okay, people aren't, and I guess because it's HIPAA laws, you can't really get into it right now. So I get it, but I know people don't understand just how much of a phenomenon this is. Like this is happen.
In full disclosure, I went ahead and found a few articles to read up and try to get some newer updated stats. But the number of cases have increased. Okay, but let's take that with a grain of salt. The number of cases have increased because we are now able to identify what it is. In the past, if somebody had sudden cardiac arrest, we just said it was a heart attack and left it, right? And so now we know what this is, so we can give it its own category. We can track it better, okay? So the numbers have increased, but the irony is that this is a condition we see a lot in Little League Baseball, right? Little League Baseball, kids are throwing a baseball at 40, 50, 60 miles an hour, hits a kid in the chest at the right moment, he goes down. And most of the time, there's not an athletic trainer and or an automated external defibrillator on site to resuscitate the kid. And so let's also make sure people understand that this can happen and you can perform CPR all you want. But without a defibrillator to reset the electrical current, it's like jump starting a battery. Without that, you're not going to put that rhythm, that electrical current back in rhythm, the heart back in rhythm.
I'm so go ahead, baby.
I don't know. It was not too long ago. A couple of years back, there was a situation with a young man that died on the field. I can't think of the sport, but his mom, African-American mom, and she made it her life's work to provide a defibrillator at every game or every place where it's the sports being played. She like, in other words, she's got a nonprofit that and she's just going around buying defibrillators to make sure that doesn't happen to somebody else's child.
Right.
I can't remember this
and those, and I don't know specifically who you're speaking about, but there are a lot of programs out, because for that purpose, for that reason. The issue is that, one, people may not know about the program, right? Two, those programs are nonprofits, and so if they don't get funding, how do they get defibrillators to provide, right? And there's solutions to that as well. But the problem and the bigger issue, and so now I'm gonna get on my athletic training soapbox. The biggest issue is that somewhere around 75% of the schools in the country do not have an athletic trainer on site, right? How many Little League games have athletic trainers on site? How many AAU games? AAU brings in big money, but how many have an athletic trainer on site? And so here's a statistic. For every minute that the person is in arrest from commotio cordis, their chances of survival decreases 10%. So how long were they performing CPR on him?
10 minutes.
So
right around 10 minutes. Yeah.
So I'll say he had a 90% chance that he was not going to make it before he came back. And so what y'all witnessed last night was clinical death. Y'all watched a young man die on the field and get resuscitated. Wow. And so we talk about sports and the magnitude and the gravity of sports. And again, I spent 20 years in it. I love it. And last night I was like, man, I kind of want to get back on the sidelines. But the reality is that these things happen. And that's why we as athletic trainers, we practice. Those guys didn't just run out on the field and say, okay, what are we supposed to do? They have practiced that a million times, probably, on that level, NFL level, once a month, and then one day in the summer, they spend a whole day reading over the latest literature on different conditions and practicing and updating their technique and their equipment. And you know what I mean? Like, this wasn't happen chance that they got lucky. Well, no, I take that back. It's all a crapshoot, but we practice and we prepare for this, and we spend a lot of time educating ourselves on these techniques and these conditions.
By the way, the young lady that Mama Noise was talking about is Rhonda Harrell from Tennessee. Her son from the middle school situation. So the thing that we're talking about is typically lower level sports that can't afford the type of stuff that they need to truly put these kids into violent contact situations. And you mentioned to me lacrosse is a heavy target for this type of stuff because of the heaviness of the ball and that type of thing.
So we'll get into a little physiology, and I hope I don't bore your people with this, but the space between the sternum, the chest bone, and the heart is minimal. All right. So in young kids and adults, their bones and things are still pliable. So they have a lot more movement in this space. So it doesn't take a lot of force for an adolescent to get hit and go into emotional quarters, right? I mean, he young man can fall on his, him and his brother wrestling, fall on his brother's closed hand, and just enough, and it can send him into arrhythmia. So it doesn't take a lot of force. It really became prevalent in the lacrosse area because, yes, they have that ball and they're whipping it really fast and it's making contact. And, they were getting to them within a minute, within seconds, and they were performing CPR and they weren't bringing them back. It's like, what is going on? Like, does our CPR not work? And then as science catches up and you get, you can do these autopsies and different, you put them on monitors, EKGs, and monitor them. You start seeing that the wave is off. Then you start understanding, like, hold on, this is something a little bit different than just cardiac arrest. So again, we're better able to identify this cause. And so now the goal is to try to prevent it or be ready for it in the event it happens.
I appreciate you saying that we saw a clinical death last night on the field. But I also want to highlight the fact that we saw an effort to reverse that par excellent. I mean, they
listen.
really. I mean, this guy has no chance if they don't
Listen.
have this coordinated the way that they did.
Listen, I don't, and I think we talked a little last night. This has probably that was probably one of the most triggering things I've seen in a long time. And so, no, let me say I have not had to perform CPR in that sense, but I've had to make phone calls at 2 a.m. because players were shot, to a parent that was like 8 hours away at 2:30 in the morning. Right. So you still understand the scope of that trauma. Right. I've had to run out on the field when the player is not moving and you're like, what's going on? I mean, going through my head, what's going on? Hey, you on your mic. Hey, everybody get ready, stand by, whatever, and so it's all very similar. So I can empathize with that staff. But what I also know is that when the rubber hits the road, practice, practice, practice. The way you practice is the way you perform. And those guys, I mean, from what I can see, and first and foremost, I would never critique them because I'm not there.
Right. Yeah, we wouldn't ask you to. Right.
Again, hats off to those guys. For looking like they stayed cool, stayed professional, did what they had to. And I'm sure they're sitting back today, like most of us, we're going to critique what went right, what went wrong, and say next time this, maybe something was in a bad position. It's like, you know what, we'll put it in here so we can find it easier. All of those things. That's what we do. We want to make sure that when it's time for us to perform, there's no hesitation, there's no stuttering. Because when it's time for us to perform, it's usually not a good thing.
I just for a second, I do want to go back before they have this moment, because this didn't happen in Buffalo. This happened in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And so to be able to coordinate this the way that they were able to, I actually heard one of the medical experts on ESPN today. She was from Columbia University, I think she was. She was a professor at Columbia. You probably maybe have saw her as well.
See it now.
Okay. Well, she talked about what you said, the level. She said, I don't think people understand the level of coordination, the fact that there's a signal man that does a certain thing and lets you know this, and it's not a small thing. Talk a little bit about what you just said about the practice of it all, and then when the reality hits, how you are able to maintain in the midst of, because that was 60,000 people watching that, and not to mention,
100,000 million on TV.
Right, on TV, and then the immediate 150 to 200 people from both sides of the team that are right there with you as well.
Let me tell you that they didn't hear a thing. They, it's like sports, like, oh, LeBron, he zoned out, or he was in the zone, and he was
right.
That's our zone, right? Like when the rubber hits the road, that's our zone. We have within that National Athletic Trainers Association, that's our governing body, we have what we call best practices for sudden cardiac arrest, or, best practices for the emergency management of an injured athlete. And within it, one of the edicts is that you rehearse your emergency action plans. Okay. So we make an emergency action plan, and everybody who could be involved is made aware of this action plan. Everybody's assigned a duty, on the high school level. Who's going to be responsible for unlocking the gate for EMS? Who's going to be responsible for going out to meet EMS, right? Who's going to be responsible for getting the players out of the way? Who's going to be responsible? Because I'm going to be dealing with the student athlete, right? So on the high school level, it's just me. I don't have, right? I think I saw a post somewhere today where they said in all last night, there were close to 40 some odd medical personnel associated with that event last night at the stadium alone. Okay. So we practice this, we practice it, right? In my class, we lecture for about an hour and a half, and then we pull out the spine board, and then we practice, right? Then we pull out scenarios, and we go through them and say, what do you think this condition is? Okay, now show me, how would you manage it? How would you treat it? So we practice this, right? So at game time, again, best practice, one of the things they do is they talk about what we call a medical timeout, right? So at this time, players is getting dressed, everybody's getting ready, everybody's getting hyped and whatever else. The medical staff, they disappear and they go off and they meet the Bengals and the Bills, the officials, the spotters in the sky, the independent neurologists, the EMTs, every medical personnel working at that stadium that could be involved were at this meeting. And at this meeting, we talk about, all right, where's the EMTs going to be located? Where's the ambulance going to be located? Where are the keys to the ambulance, right? I mean, get detail, right? In the event of emergency, what hospital are we going to? Obviously, it was University of Cincinnati. Who is going to be escorting the ambulance, right? Which police officers, which cruisers? Who's going to be responsible for contacting parents, families, and getting them to the thing, right? On the field wise, who's going to be responsible for signaling or getting equipment? Who's going to be doing, like, we go through all of that in front of both teams so that everybody knows kind of what's going on. What most people don't know is that within our profession, we kind of have this thing over where we put injuries over team loyalty. It sounds weird, all right? So what most people probably didn't see or recognize is that when the Bills medical staff ran out and they're working on it, the Bengals staff came over as well, right? And so that's just something we do to offer aid. Like we may be different teams, but we still train and prepare for the same thing. And so this is your guy and I'm going to let you run it. But if you need me to cut a jersey, I can cut a jersey. If you need me to help roll him to do this, I can help, right? I understand the severity and the urgency of what's going on. And so we offer that up. Two, being the home team as the Bengals medical guy, you tell me what you need, right? I see you feverishly working and you cutting. And usually it's little things like, for instance, when I'm in those situations, I talk everything out loud. So when I go out, I'm checking for breath. It's like, no breath sounds, faint pulse. I'm speaking this so my assistant can hear and he can start doing whatever and getting ready for what we're going to need. Likely one of the Bengals guys looked up and said something to the effect of no pulse, no whatever. And the Bengals staff radioed for the truck to come out on the field. So again, there's a lot of preparation that goes into this. We don't just show up and say, Lord, I hope nothing happens. And, we're going to pray for a good game and let's hope nothing happens and whatever. We take the position of, we hope nothing happens, but we've prepared for it. And so let's review real quick and who's going to do what, when, where. And for instance, like I saw a lot of the interns and stuff, I can spot them, right? And so they're standing just off to the side, waiting for instructions to get this, to get that, to do this, to do that, to what, you know what I mean? And so it's a well orchestrated piece of chaos.
Wow. I know you got to go. I know you're working on some big time.
I'm okay. You're okay right now. You're okay.
I'm okay. Okay. I don't want to, because I'm gonna pivot a little bit here and bring Al and Mama Noise back in here and get to a little bit more macro level to some of this. Because again, this has been a wild 24 hours.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you kept hearing, one of the things you kept hearing, and I'd love to get you guys' opinion on it, is the timing of what was taking place. And then after the ambulance left, now you're left with the reality of what the aftermath is.
Yeah.
So now let's talk a little bit about that, because there's a lot of confusion and ESPN swears they heard somebody say, we're going to give 5 minutes and then we're going back out on the field, which Troy Vincent came out today, director of whatever he's director of football, something.
Football operations or something.
Yeah. But he came out and said that is not true at all. It was never even discussed.
Yeah.
So I don't know if ESPN got that wrong or NFL is lying, but I'd love to hear all of you guys' thoughts on. I'll be honest with you. I was watching it going, I don't know how the hell they're going to play. How do you even have the gumption to even ask me to play? Because I just watched my brother go down and, like you said, die on the field.
And not know his status right now. And not know his status.
We're done.
So I have a different, kind of a different stance on that, because I heard, I've seen some people going after Skip for something he said. I didn't hear it, so I don't know the context and if it was taken out of context.
We're going to get to that as well.
Yeah, I have a different spin, because I've been on the inside, right? And I've had lots of injuries where we've had to cut equipment off, put guys in C collars and spine board them, and there were conversations about maybe even calling in helicopters. And so, we're causing a 45-minute delay in a game. And so I understand the question, as bad as it sounds, we always say, enjoy your time with your family, because when you die, they're going to have your job posted before you in the dirt. Right. Sports is kind of the same way. It's a machine that will continue to move. I hate this for this young man. And again, but the sport itself will move on. This game is just a cog in the wheel. And so do we play? How do we play? Should we play? Should we, whatever? These guys have been playing this sport all their life. And whenever there's been an injury, they're desensitized to injuries most of the time. Right. So whenever there's an injury, man, you Riverside, you flip the field and you start practicing and you go on. Let the medical guys do what they need to do. Let's get out of their way, but we can keep practicing. And that's that thing, right? And so these guys see injuries a lot and they cope and they deal, and their coping mechanism is what it is. And I think what you saw last night was some people's coping mechanism. Whether you like it or not, whether you agree with it or not, their coping mechanism is the only thing I can do, only thing I know and what I can control is playing football. Let's come on, guys, let's get ready. Let's go. And that was their coping mechanism, right? But then others were like, I'm distraught. Like, what do I don't even know what to do, right? And so that, like you said, there's a ton of emotion going on. And I don't think we should be condemning one person for the way that they coped with what happened, what they saw, right? And I'm not saying you are.
No, I completely agree with that. And I think what was nice in some of the reporting that was going on today is that there wasn't a lot of that.
Yeah,
there was
the reporting, the social media stuff, right?
Well, right. Social media was a whole nother thing. That Twitter was on fire last night.
Because people get their news from social media, not from credible sources, right?
Right. It was nice that most people in the media were kind of balanced in their assessment of it. I heard a couple of people kind of criticize and saying, well, it took them 45 minutes to decide to cancel the game. Well, listen, of course, because that's a whole nother conversation.
So let's talk about conversations, right? It took them 45 minutes to decide. How many of y'all know what those conversations are really about?
Right.
Like again, being on the sidelines, University of South Carolina, Western Kentucky, Philadelphia Eagles, been on the sidelines. I was never in those conversations. So I can't even speak to what they said. I can tell you what they probably were talking about. Okay, what's the status of your team? What's the state of your team? This is unprecedented. Somebody was probably consulting with rules people and game officials, and like there were conversations going on about, okay, let's find a direction and start moving one way. We can always pivot and go back somewhere else and do whatever. But at the end of the day, it was like everyone is probably really seriously just talking about where are we?
And by the way, I appreciate the people that didn't knee jerk and do something ridiculous. Like to be honest with you, and I heard this on, I'm gonna give credit where credit is due. Frank Isola said this on Around the Horn today, and you heard it out. He said, here's the reality. If you end the game right there in the moment that the ambulance is trying to get out of the stadium, you just delayed this guy's opportunity to get to a hospital. Because now everybody's pouring out of the thing. They traffic jam. They can't get out.
Well, not quite. So one of the things we do, I used to do advanced travel at South Carolina, right? So team flies in on a Friday afternoon. I usually would fly in on a Thursday morning. In that fly-in, we would meet with the airport people. All right, what runway are we coming in? What terminal we're going to come out, where's the bus is going to be. And then we met with the state trooper. What's our route? How many troopers will we have? This is our plans for activity. How many cars will we have escort? That blah, blah, right? Then we had conversations about in the event of this family member is going to ride in the car with the trooper, right? In the event of you'll have these escorts, this route is the route to the level 1 trauma we'll take. At the level 1 trauma, this person is going to be the physician on call. This person will have direct access to the home team, athletic training, medical staff. Like, again, I have sent guys to the emergency room in the second quarter. And by the time we were getting ready to end the fourth quarter, they had been seen, evaluated, addressed, dealt with, and ready to come back and fly back home with us on the plane. So you understand what I mean? So it's almost presidential level in the sense that when that ambulance coming out the tunnel, when he got to the top of that hill or wherever he came out, they had a path laid out.
True. But that's also perfect circumstances also.
Well, I'm saying that's part of the planning we do.
Right. That's part of the planning. Right.
So yes. So if you call the game, yes, you'll have fans coming out for sure. But in the circumstances, those fans would have been like, wait a minute. And the cops would have been like, clear streets, hold traffic, whatever.
It's possible it may not have been as bad, but
his logic is correct though.
Yeah.
Right? In that you can potentially make the situation worse.
Did you have a problem with the delays, Al? Or were you going to say something before that? Go ahead and say that.
I was just going to say, but you have to think, we as fans and spectators, we're like Pavlov's dogs. We're creatures of habit, right? So we're conditioned to expect the game to go on. NFL players, you hear it all the time, that warrior mentality, next man up. They talked about that on so many of the sports. So we're conditioned for the next man to step up.
Right.
Excuse me. So we anticipated, at least I anticipated before I saw the gravity, the magnitude of the emotional distress. I anticipated after the first 15 minutes that game would resume.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people did. And I think that's probably when you saw when Skip's his comment was probably, like you said, within that first 8, 10, 12 minutes, because again,
because this was just a little bit more than just a football game too, because this has
implications for
playoff standings, and
first round bye.
So there was a little bit more weight on it. I get it. People are so super sensitive now, so I get it. But Skip Bayless didn't say anything than Chris Van Pelt did.
Yeah.
But let me tell you why I think I agree. But let me tell you why I think Skip doesn't get the pass that everybody else gets, because Skip has continually and consistently said reckless shit. He just has, and because he's done that, and it's all flight. They're not going to give him a pass. And by the way, I'm not sure we should, if I'm being honest with you, because, bro, you have to be in the moment with us. You can't always be the foe, because even if the comment is relatively benign, it reeks of not understanding the sensitivity of the moment and saying, I'm going to be in the moment with you all, rather than make a tweet that's going to get people to retweet and respond. That's what it felt like. And that's where I think the egregiousness is. But
even in that, I understand the animosity towards Skip, because I share some of that. But I don't think anybody thought that game should play second fiddle to Damar Hamlin.
I don't either. I don't think that, even
and that's what they're implying that Skip was doing, and I don't think that's the case, because even the NFL, as the business that it is, I don't think they even thought that game took priority.
No, I agree, and that's where I'm just kind of like, you can have empathy and sympathy for the young man, and then still want to see the game, right? Like that, they're not that. It's not one or the other. It's not all or nothing. You know what I mean? Think about, for me as a medical guy, how many times have I ran out on the field and had to administer some kind of care to an athlete? We package him up, put him in an ambulance, send him to the hospital, and then I got to come back and still focus on the game because I got 95 other guys that could be back down 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I have empathy for the young man I just sent out, but I can't focus solely on him to the point where I can't do.
Keep talking. We'll get to this.
Yeah, but I can't get back and do my job and be there for the next person. And so I hate that some are trying to make it like an all or nothing. You if you're a fanatic, I'll call them fanaticals, and you've keeping up with this, like you said, the implications of this game are big for everyone who loves the sport. And so you kind of want some resolution to that too. Right. I mean, you want the young man to be happy, healthy and alive, but you also want some resolution to the sport, the game, your fantasy league, like all of this stuff. Right. So I don't know. I think
what's interesting about the quote, D, and Mama Noise and Al. I think if he simply says, no doubt the NFL is considering postponing the rest of the game, but how? I think he might survive it.
Yeah, you're talking about
or maybe he says, take out all the rest and say the game, and he said, which suddenly seems so irrelevant. I think he survived. I think there's no backlash at all. But because Skip is,
but see, I take that differently.
Yeah.
I think he's saying that, like, obviously they're talking about considering postponing the game. But this late in the season, schedules, blah, 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 the game of this magnitude, blah, 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 is crucial, but it's irrelevant considering what just happened.
Right.
That's how I'm reading his message. And so for me, I'm like, I don't see the egregiousness in what he's saying.
Well,
I took it the same way that he was saying that, this game is important, but at this point, it's irrelevant.
It's irrelevant. Right.
And while I don't disagree with what you guys just said, I see it differently because as a writer, I'm saying that it's timing. It's all timing.
And I think I think a lot of other commentators, they probably saw that, and the way that they danced around saying the same thing is by saying, but at some point we're going to have the conversation.
But not.
And that's exactly how Van Pelt worded it.
And
at some point, we're going to have the conversation.
At the end of the day, it's no different than what Skip said. It's just worded differently.
Well, but again, I think it's the timing. It's the right conversation at the wrong time. If you wait till later that evening, or you have a show, bro. You wait till tomorrow on your show, and you and Shannon have that debate, you're probably good. But because the dude is being driven, the comment came as the guy was being driven off the field. That ain't the right time.
I'm just going to say he has a reputation for always saying slick-ish. And I remember the last time he said something that made me shut him down altogether. And I don't listen to him. I don't read nothing he does. I've canceled him personally. Is when he has zero compassion for the QB for Dallas Cowboys when he said he needed some mental he was having some mental health issues. And he was struggling in that area, and then he gonna jump and start talking about how can you have mental issues and be the QB of the big Dallas Cowboy. I was like, oh boy, if that was bait that I took, then I took the bait, shut him all the way down, and I ain't got nothing else to say.
So as you saw, and listen, full disclosure, Twitter lit his ass up last night. I mean, to the point where his boss, he admitted today on his show, of which Shannon did not show up. Shannon purposely did not show up for the show today because of what took place. Now, I don't know if that's because he said, Skip, you're going to stand on this mountain by yourself. I'm not bailing you out. Because Shannon is a part of the brotherhood.
Well,
so I understand.
And again, you got to understand, like your perspective versus mine are vastly different versus Skip and Shannon. Right. And so I probably would have let him stand on that too. You got to defend. I can't bail you out of this one. You got to defend this one on your own.
Work this out how you work it out. Right. So It was a tricky situation, and it will probably continue to be. I do want to give a couple of shout outs real quick though. I got to give a shout out to my guy Ryan Clark. My God, man, you were amazing. I got another shout out I'm gonna give out to really the whole. I'll be honest with you, ESPN has handled this incredibly well. You know, they basically kind of altered their entire programming all day and just stayed in this moment and said people need answers. And by the way, we're kind of living minute to minute with this. Like we don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And so I applaud them for saying, let's not rush past this moment. Like it's just another moment. It's not an ACL tear. It's not an Achilles. It's not a ripped up knee, broken arm or torn pecs or something else. This is a life and death circumstance, and it's way beyond football. Listen, the reason why we're talking about it on this show is because it's way beyond football, and so I applaud ESPN for handling it well. Another shout out I give out to Dan Orlovsky, who literally prayed on air, stopped the entire show and said a prayer. He was like, I just feel like we need to do this, like right now. So, I mean, they've handled it about as well as to be expected considering the circumstance. Al, you were about to say so. I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask Danny, Dr. Coble.
That's right.
Just this much. Here, let me get on screen.
Uh-oh. As soon as he went to get a screen, they take him out.
Because my computer's acting stupid. But let's not really specify Damar. Let's just give a hypothetical because none of us know what's going on at UC Medical.
Right.
So in a hypothetical situation, what's going on now? For a person that would have experienced this, what is going on now?
Yeah. So if he's in ICU, typically
CCU.
Say again.
He's in CCU.
Okay. ICU intensive care, CCU is critical care.
Right.
Not much difference in what's happening in those either bay. Okay. Critical care just probably means that they're probably on a lot more monitors. And so at this point, he's on, they got him in a medically induced coma, which means he's definitely on the breathing machine. He's probably got monitors on his heart, looking at the rhythm, seeing at the rhythm. Because what can happen is even once they shock the rhythm back, it can go back into arrhythmia, or alter without rhythm. And so they're monitoring it to see if he has that, if it goes back out, if it's in, if it's out, if it's in, if it's out, or whatever, right? And the coma itself, in and of itself, is just allow his body to heal. It's to minimize the stress, physiological stress that's placed on the body just by walking, talking, breathing, being conscious and coherent. So that's really what's going on. The question, I don't know if anybody's asked, if anybody's talked about it, thought about it, or whatnot. It's like, could he return? The big question is, in the literature, it's I think I read one case where a kid, he had the issue, went to the hospital, shocked him back, got him back. He waited 6 weeks, 8 weeks or what, I think, followed up with a cardiologist, and he returned and ended up playing Division II baseball, right? But that's baseball, right? I think when he comes out of this, and again, this is all hypothetical. Obviously, really, I would hope that he has the option of doing this. That means he's recovered, he's well, and he's feeling good. But, he'll have to go through a full workup, MRI, CT scans, probably some ultrasounds, because they want to look at the heart. They want to look at the chambers of the heart, the walls of the heart, make sure they're not thickened or scarred, or if he's got any kind of abnormalities that didn't get picked up during the NFL physical. And I'll back up and say this, because a lot of people are like, well, he maybe had a pre-existing condition. Anybody that's in the NFL likely does not have a pre-existing condition. The physical scrutiny that these athletes go through in the NFL combine is unlike anything you can ever imagine. I mean, anything. I mean, I've had athletes that came out of, schools I worked at, and they get to the combine and they notice that they have foraminal stenosis, and the kid's like, I don't know what that is or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, does it bother you? Any symptoms? Like, no. Okay, boom, you still disqualified because this showed up on the MRI. You know what I mean?
What is that, by the way?
So the spinal cord, right, is here, right?
Yeah.
And so as that cord from scar tissue, whatever, as it gets smaller, we call that spinal stenosis. So where the nerve roots come off of the spinal cord, there's an opening, the foramen. And so we call that foraminal opening. And as that closes, you get foraminal stenosis, the closing or narrowing of the foramen. All right. And so the athlete had that and he got disqualified. And so that ended his NFL potential. So the scrutiny that these athletes go through at the combine is pretty rigorous. MRIs, X-rays, CTs, the whole nine. Full review of their medical chart from their college days. So he'll have to go through, another rigorous examination of cardiologists, a stress test, echo test, all of those things to see if his heart can handle the workload. Again, these are all kind of educated guesses because there's kind of no precedent for a football player having this injury and coming back and playing. So a lot of what I'm talking about is just for a regular person, right? Like guys and girls like us, they're going to put us through these tests to see if I can go back to work at Ford or if I can go back and, coach my kids' little league game, right? Can my heart take that stress without going back into fibrillation?
Can we stay there for a moment? Because you and Al just made me think of this now. The long-term effects of this, like.
So yeah, the long term, taking football out of the equation,
right?
He could have a regular life, right?
Okay.
There's two options with that will come with that, right? If he gets out of this, goes through all the tests, everything they say is fine. If his heart does not slip in and out of rhythm, then he can go on and have a normal life, kids, wife, blah, 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 whatever. He may be advised to avoid any kind of caffeine or stimulants or things like that that might cause the heart to speed up or give it an irregular beat, but he can have a normal life. If he comes out of this and his heart just won't stay in normal rhythm, then he'll have to get an internal defibrillator placed in, and it'll be implanted. It'll monitor him, and if he starts having an issue, it'll shock it and throw it back into rhythm. So,
is that aka a pacemaker?
Same thing, yeah.
Wow.
So
I
think again at minimum, we pray that the young man can just come back and have a normal life.
Right.
So
but I do want to ask a difficult question though. And I don't want you to put it in the framework of percentages, because I don't want to do that to people right now in such a emotional and very difficult situation to understand. But I do want to ask this question: Is the road, based on the research that you've done, to recovery a very difficult one?
There's a lot of factors that go into the answer to that question. The road to recovery is going to be difficult first and foremost from the mental standpoint. You know what I mean? Like, this young man is going to come to the reality that he almost died. And so I don't know what his home life, if he's married, girlfriend, kids, whatever, there's a conversation that has to be had, right? Daddy, is this worth it? Honey, is this worth it? Right. From the physical standpoint, it also depends on the damage that was inflicted from trying to resuscitate him.
Right.
So from a CPR standpoint, you got broken ribs, you got sternums that could be cracked. What is was there damage to the lungs in this process, right? Because CPR is not the graceful thing we see on TV. CPR is we are literally trying to take rigid structures, the ribs and the sternum, and move them 2 inches to touch the heart, to compress the heart, right? So in that situation last night, those guys knew that defibrillation was the only way they were going to save him. But the purpose of the CPR is that so we can keep blood circulating through the body. They were physically pumping the blood through the body so that the brain had oxygen, so that we can try to preserve as much of his function as we can until we got him shocked back. Does it make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So
So
now it just comes down to
it's if now, to give you a better answer, I would have to know what his medical chart says.
right. What happened? What were the results? Yeah.
Right. And let's say, best case scenario, if there was minimum from the CPR, again, his heart rhythm stays the way it's supposed to. Again, under the guidance of a cardiologist and whatnot, he could, he would do. I don't know. Have you ever done a stress test? A cardiac stress test?
I have not.
Okay. So let me explain. Okay. So cardiac stress test, most people don't make it more than 4 or 5 minutes. So you are on a treadmill and you're running, and I forgot the speed, right? And every minute it goes up a grade, and it goes up and it goes up and it goes up and it goes up. And while it's doing it, they are monitoring your heart, your blood pressure, your blah, 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 right? And it's seeing, can your heart take the stress of a gradually increased stress? All right, exercise induced stress. So he'll have to go through one of those as well. And they'll use that data to kind of give an idea of their advice as far as playing or not. Now, again, I've read a few articles. I'm on the side of emergency management, recognizing and immediate treatment of, but a cardiologist was going to be the person that will make that decision to say, hey, I think the chances are good that you can go out and play football and be fine. Personally, if our cardiologist, if I was there and cardiologist said, yeah, he can come back and play, then we would talk about some equipment modifications for sure. A little bit more padding or reinforcement of the pad in that place, and placement of that. But understand this, that injury was a freak accident. All right. Let's just understand that first and foremost. We talk about concussions and the violence of the game and concussions, and rules have been changed, equipment have been modified to minimize and reduce the amount of concussions. But we're leading with the head, we're tackling with the head, the head is part of the game. Falling in that position and in that exact moment, again, how long has football been around? Right? This is the first time that we've seen anything like that.
Yeah.
So it's an accident. It is an accident, and so therefore there shouldn't be a lot of speculations or insinuating that the game needs to change and rules need to be changed. And again, we could be out in the backyard wrestling and playing around and fall and land on a rock or land on somebody's foot and go into it. So it's a freak accident.
Damar Hamlin was an unknown to most of us.
No, everybody in the
I would say outside of
Buffalo Bill fans.
Right, outside of Buffalo Bill fans, he was.
Let's be honest.
But let me tell you something. The brother is known now. I'm sure by now you've heard one of the most amazing parts of all of this is this part right here. A guy who was just trying to raise $2,500 to help his hood, help some kids in the hood so they can get 2 or 3 toys.
And here's what I like about this story is the fact that he had this set up long before this injury.
Right, had nothing to do with it.
I don't care about how big or famous or famous I am or not. This is something I need help doing. Because I'm sure I know he doesn't have a huge contract, and so
Danny, as I understand it, and Al, that may be where you was about to go. He's been doing this since college.
Go
ahead, Al.
You
muted out. Yeah.
I was just gonna say he did this coming out of college, when he declared for the draft.
Okay.
And so he just wanted every kid in his community,
man,
at least have one toy.
You gotta love that. You gotta love that. You know what
That's
I'm saying?
incredible.
Like, again,
and I love people. Yeah, we don't know what to do in this moment. We don't know how. Some of us pray. We just pray, and others, they don't know what to do. So they just did this. And like even I mean, I guess I can't hide the guy's donation, but like this guy Jason
$20,000
gave $20,000 to this, right? And by the way, Kyrie is in the building. AK, well, Mr. Ron Nola, AK Mr. Uncle Juan, Mr. AK Kyrie is in the building. What up, bro?
I believe there was a a millionaire that donated over $1 million.
Wow.
Really.
Wow.
So
And that's the great part about this is because good, bad, or indifferent, his dream is going to be fulfilled.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be just his neighborhood anymore. You know, he can do
Oh.
some things.
Yeah.
And it speaks to the kid's character too, right? Coming out of college, he ain't got no money, but he still wants to do something for somebody else. Hey.
And that's awesome.
Yeah.
You muted out. You muted out.
Yeah.
Say it one more time.
you saw his goal.
Yeah.
Right.
2,500. And I love it.
Listen, I think it's really.
It's my computer that keeps jumping in and out. One of the female reporters that follows the team all year round made the comment that that foundation has never raised over $5,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
So now I'm sure he's contributed more than that.
Yeah. But you know, too, he doesn't have a superstar contract. I mean,
no.
He was drafted in the 6th round.
Right.
He's
fighting to stay on the team.
Right.
Yeah. Other than the kid from San Francisco, how many more 5th, 6th rounders do we know?
Right.
Yeah.
Kyrie, you haven't had a chance. Ron, you haven't had a chance to say anything about any of this. So,
oh man,
please jump in and tell us your thoughts, brother.
No, man, y'all doing a fantastic job, man. I'm just sorry I'm late. I had to go pick the kids up, man. But listening to y'all, man. It's you guys are on point for everything.
Well, what did you see it, Ron, or were you
watched it live, man?
Wow, what were your thoughts when you saw it?
Probably the most scariest thing being a parent to ever see for your child.
Yeah.
I don't care what you're doing. I don't care everything that was going on. That's the one thing that makes me the nervous about any sports my kids playing is to see my child go down out of the blue.
Yeah.
Being a parent, man, that scares the shit out of you.
Yeah.
No matter what else is going on in the world, that is the most scariest thing that you could see.
No question.
So here's the irony behind his statement, because I appreciate it as a parent, but when your child goes to college, they're not minors, and by HIPAA laws, I can't tell you anything.
Right.
Not a thing. Right. But
it's even scarier.
But I can tell you, every kid on that team, I'm sure almost every involved parent has the athletic trainers' cell phones.
Yeah.
And so I used to tell all of my parents, if you see your child go down on the field on TV, I will call you. Let me do what I need to do. I will call you. If you're in the stands and we need you to come down, I will send someone to come get you. You know what I mean? Like, because that statement he just said, right? Whew,
Yeah, man.
And HIPAA be, I ain't gonna say HIPAA be damn, but I can at least be like, I can at least be like, hey, it's okay. It's not life threatening. I can give you enough to at least
calm you down. Yeah, that's all you really want as a parent.
Right, but let me get you to the hospital.
Well, I will tell you that when I worked in the medical field in the administrative part of it, in the front office type thing. So, ambulatory care, like at an immediate care center. And when you tell people HIPAA law, they're like, what the, I don't know what that means. And that, when you say that, it's almost it's a gut punch to say you're totally helpless, because before you was able to say I'm the daddy, I'm the mama, or whatever, and then people go, oh well, yes ma'am, yes sir. But now that you throw out the HIPAA law and your child is no longer a minor, it's like, what the? I pay for them to go to school. I just they're like, ma'am.
They don't care that it's your insurance. They don't care.
It's good. Yeah.
You don't have any say so. You can't ask for no grades. You can't ask for no status on nothing. Your child is an adult. But the other part is when you said, I have the number, call me. First thing I thought about, I know you're gonna say this is left field, but it was Jerry Maguire.
No, that's a great example though, Mama Noise, because imagine if you're his girlfriend and you're back in Buffalo and you just watch this moment, you are freaking out. You are unnerved.
Now I don't do girlfriends.
Right. No. And,
you know what I'm saying?
And by the way, and I respect that because girlfriends,
they come and go.
They come and go. Right.
Yep.
But like wives, if you're his wife, I don't know if he's married. I don't think he's married.
Well,
but
I'm speaking of college age kids.
Yeah.
Right? So my story was college age. They're college age. Mom and dad still has some hand in support and whatnot. But Ken, I go back to your statement. And so I had a situation where I had 2 athletes injured, and at 2 a.m, I had to go to the hospital. All right. And so when I get into the emergency room, I say, hey, I'm here to check on the status of so-and-so. And the lady says, well, sir, I can't give you anything because of HIPAA. I said, ma'am, I am the medical director of the football program. I am directly responsible for their medical care. And she continued to try to use HIPAA, right? Mm-hmm. Coach walks in and she's like, oh, hey, coach. And coach looks at me and says, Danny, what's going on? I'm like, she won't tell me what's going on. She says, why won't you give him information? This is the medical director. And she's like, well, then she tells me. I said, ma'am, first and foremost, I got the kids' insurance information, social security number, mom, dad, emergency contact number. Who you going to call? Because I'm the one that's got to make the call at 2 a.m. to tell them that their son is whatever. Like, so even with HIPAA, as the athletic trainer, you guys know who I am and what I do, but a lot of the medical community don't still.
I was going to say they don't have a full explanation as to what the pros, I mean, the do's and don'ts of HIPAA. All they know is to say HIPAA.
Yeah.
You know what? I feel like that story you just told us, Danny. I know it's been years since it happened, but at the same time, I feel like that lady deserves this. So this is for you, bro. I'm just saying. Lady, ma'am.
Listen, boy, you funny. You were funny.
Ma'am.
Yeah, she deserved that one.
She deserved that, bro.
It's just like every other law they create. The true benefit is buried under so much nonsense.
Yeah, good point.
That it's again
because the purpose of the law makes sense. HIPAA law.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
But the bureaucracy of the law is just absurd.
And I hate to say this, but it feels like it's the nurses. Like you said, they just use it as a catchphrase. Oh, well, HIPAA, I can't. Man.
Right.
Athletic training, sports medicine.
Have you ever read HIPAA? You should ask that. Like, what does HIPAA say? What does it really say?
Probably don't even know the acronym.
You don't even know exactly.
Probably can't even spell the acronym.
And then once my team doctor came in, the team doctor comes in from the back, and he's like, "Oh, Danny, come on back." And she's just kind of like, and you don't want to be acting like you big time. I'm like, bitch, Like,
I love that our doctor just called the nurse a bitch.
Listen, I am who I am.
Right. Listen, I know.
But I think it's because it's not explained. I think, it's, you don't know that your child is, okay, you know that your child is 18 or over. But then when they start saying that, you're saying, the law says I can't hear what's going on.
Right.
But who's going to come to me when they want the bill paid?
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, and so now understand this, though, too, is sometimes when there's cases of children who make a complaint against a parent, mm-hmm. right? And so the law is also in place to kind of protect those situations. In cases, of rape or incest, and the kid's an adult, but they don't want their parents to know. You know what I mean? Like, again, the law has great intentions, but the problem is in healthcare itself. And that healthcare is so siloed. Athletic trainers do what they do, nurses do what they do, physicians do what they do. And it's only in our sports medicine umbrella we know who each other are and what we do in our specialty. So in healthcare education, there's more, they call it interprofessional education that's starting to take place with nurses and EMTs and paramedics to minimize these turf battles at time of injury and stuff. So
we got about 15 minutes left in the program, so I want to go to the next part of this, the last and final part of this, which is the reality that we talked about earlier. We're still 1 week away from the end of the season. Now, Roger Goodell has come out and said, as of today, this game won't be played this week.
Right.
Now, the reality is, it is more likely than not that the game is not going to be played. I get the sense that it's just not going to be played. They may try to squeeze it in, but I don't know how or where they would put it in. Because if they wrap up on Sunday, when would you play this game other than Thursday? And then that same team who plays on, or those same two teams that play on Thursday, got to turn around and play on Saturday and Sunday. So it's a weird
holiday.
And you can't keep stretching it out.
And you got to be concerned about the NFLPA, because they have rules about number of days of practice, number of days of full contact versus non-contact versus days off after competition. So there's all of those things that get factored into that as well.
Well, and the thing about it, you could also, again, we just came out of COVID. There's times they canceled COVID games and never replayed them.
Yeah.
Right.
So again, you can literally follow the same protocol with this one. Different circumstance, but you can follow the same protocol. So at the end of the year, you might have to call it a draw. You kind of go with it at that.
I think it would be co-champs. I think it would be that simple, Ron, if the outcome of this game didn't affect 4 to 5 other teams in the AFC.
But what if both teams played this game to its entirety last night and it ended in a draw?
You have the same situation.
You have the same outfit. Yeah.
Right.
There is another scenario that they use in baseball. And when they call a rained or act of God type game, they whatever the score of that game is at the time it ended.
Yeah.
It sucks, right? It's a terrible way to hand Kansas City.
Yeah, you don't want to be the first team to lose to a rule that was put in at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Well, and then you don't want to punish Buffalo twice. Like they lose their player, and by the way, we're gonna make it damn hard for y'all to make it even through the playoffs at all.
Yeah.
So it's
what was the score of the game? I don't even know.
7-3 Cincinnati.
7-3.
Okay. 7-3 Cincinnati. So it's a tough circumstance.
Yeah.
Again, let's go back so we don't get Skip Bayless. That shit is so secondary, thirdary, fourthary to the healing, the total and complete healing of Damar Hamlin. So that's precedence. And also secondary, thirdary, fourthary to the mental, emotional, and spiritual healing of the players. Because they gotta, I'm telling you, in my mind, I could not see a path. We're all ex-athletes on this screen, everybody, including Mama Noise, track star. So I could not personally see a path. If I watched Danny or Ron or Al go down, damn that game.
Well, and that's the reason why I said it's you kind of have to call it a draw, because again, they got to play next week. They're still gonna be thinking about this week, going into a next week game, which is week 18's game, which week 17 for them, week 18 of the season. So I'm already thinking about what just happened last week. I've not fully got over that. So now you still want me to come play this week. Oh, and by the way, I may have to throw another game on you probably before the playoffs.
By the way, Ron, not to mention the fact that the team you want me to play is the team that I just got triggered by. Because guess what? As soon as I step back on that field, what's the first thing that's going to pop on my mind?
Yeah. Because
there's no way not to. It's human. It's human.
Their next game, and we've all seen injuries on football. I mean, we've seen them. Your next game after a major injury, your next game sucks. So the quality of football that you're going to have in the next game is going to be horrible.
Yeah, there's going to be you're going to
have more. You have more chances for more injuries next week than you did this week, because people are going to be playing a little more
refocus. Yeah.
Well, it's not so much about the refocus. It's about the nature of the injury. So you mean to tell me that if I just make a regular tackle, it can happen to me? So there's going to have to be a lot of player education.
That's a great point, Danny.
Player counseling, coaching education, and just getting back into pads and just moving, not hitting, just moving, and just getting the mental rust out of the cogwheels. Because we tell, I tell these players all the time, look, man, go out there and play your ass off. If you get hurt, let me worry about it. But you worrying about getting hurt will cause you to get hurt.
So, I was just going to ask you. So you answered it before I got a chance to ask, because I was going to ask you, what the hell do you say? Like,
yeah. So, I mean, in this, again, it's educating them on the injury. How does this happen? You have to emphasize, it's a freak accident. It's a freak. ACLs, put your foot in the ground, you twist, but okay, we know. This is a freak accident, and you have a better chance of winning the lottery than this happening to the same team within 7 days. You know what I'm saying? So you educate the players. And I mean, I think this is where, you take it back to anatomy class. You put out pictures of diagrams and you show the heart. You make sure that visually, auditorily,
you got to educate.
We can understand what this is,
what just happened. Great point.
And then say, from a coach's standpoint, I got to get you in pads. I can't put you in just helmets. I got to get you in pads so you can take some thumps and bumps and settle back into playing the sport. Because if I put you in bubble wrap for the next up until the next game, the first dump, everybody's going to be thinking, uh-oh.
Let's take the macro view of that real quick. Is that the conversation that 31 other teams are also going to have? Because they saw it too.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
But you got to think about, you talk about the brotherhood, but these guys have played with each other, the vets, and then from college teams and some from high schools. You know what I mean? Right. So, yeah, he's a Bills player. But, he might got a cousin that played for the Cardinals. You know what I mean? And they all, whether you're in the Army, the Marines, the Navy, you understand war.
Yeah.
You understand the fog of war. Right.
But you just not gonna have that conversation with those 31 teams. Lloyd, you're gonna have this conversation next year with college. You're gonna have this conversation next year with high school.
You hope with high school, and I don't know if you were here earlier. And I say that only because a lot of high schools don't have athletic trainers. If this happens at the high school level, I'm sorry to say, your kid won't make it, because you have to have your first shock within 2 minutes.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, we've not seen it in the game. I know here, a lot of Al and Lloyd, you probably remember, we had it during summer leagues where kids were passing out heart attacks and stuff from and all that. Yeah. So they kind of changed some of the rules with the AEDs and stuff around. But you got to have this conversation, man, almost at every level, that this is a freak accident.
Yeah.
You got to pay attention to what you're doing. You guys got to do things the right way. Get out of doing these unnecessary stupid drills that they do and some of these lower level teams, and get back to doing things the right way and teaching these kids to do those things the right way.
It's an education. It's an education opportunity. The question is, who's going to capitalize on it?
Right.
Well, listen, D, you are everything that I knew you would be, because that's who you are. Send me your Cash App. I'm gonna hook you. No, I'm serious. Send me your Cash App.
Well, no, I'm serious. I'm gonna send it to you too.
I want to make sure I bless you, brother. I know you gave up some time to us tonight, and I appreciate that. I really do. But when people watch this show, whether they watched it in real time or go back and watch, which a lot of our people do, they're gonna get a good understanding, which is what I wanted. I wanted people to heal from this. I want to take just a minute though and follow the lead of Dan Orlovsky, and I want to pray for this young man, and his family, and also T. Higgins, and somebody else that I got to give a middle finger to is Bart Scott, for even insinuating that this was T. Higgins' fault. This wasn't his fault. He did it.
No. But I can't even do that. I can't even go there. He didn't do it. It's no one's fault.
You understand what I'm saying?
They were doing what they're supposed to do. You were supposed to run the ball. You're supposed to tackle him. It's not a fault. It's a.
So to even insinuate that on air is highly irresponsible.
I'd have smacked him on camera. Right.
Well, somebody should have, but they didn't. They didn't do it.
They should have just fired his ass right there on site, because that was the stupidest thing you could actually.
That was so irresponsible, and so I got to give him.
But too, they understand the business, and they gotta give a reason for people to come to their channel and listen to see what else stupid they gonna say. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. No, I hear you. I just hate that.
That's why I don't watch it. I just call you on the phone. I don't watch all that stuff. Like,
Twitter lit his ass up today too. By the way, they lit him up real good. So listen, one thing I do love about Black Twitter, when you say some stupid shit, they come for you and they get you right. They get you right real fast.
Yeah.
So but I would like to, if you guys don't mind, if you guys are cool, I'd like to just say a quick prayer for the young man, and just pray that his healing takes place like quickly, like he comes out of this quickly. So well, Father God, first and foremost, we just thank you for allowing us the opportunity to educate our followers and our listeners today, and maybe just bring some clarity to what has taken place over the last 24 hours. But God, more so than that, this is about Damar Hamlin and his family, his brothers and sisters, his mother, whatever significant other he has, whatever. We want to pray for their strength to endure this as you heal his body, as you bring him through this, God, because we know you can bring him through it. Give them the strength and the patience to let you be God in this moment, and let you bring him through it so that he can have the quality of life that Danny was talking about. And if he so chooses to play football again, God, bring him all the way through so he can pick up his craft again and continue to be the best at it as he always has been. So God, we just thank you that you're in control of it all, that we don't get the final say, you get the final say. And we thank you for just watching over him as only you can. And we give you praise for that, God. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
So that's us praying. Now, y'all pray to whoever you want to pray to. That's who we pray to. I want to give a couple of shout outs real quick. Also, not shout outs, but just our condolences and love. I think we said it Friday, because I think it happened Friday. The great Barbara Walters passed. That's still blowing my mind. I sat and watched the entire 2-hour special they did the next day, and it was just, I mean, you forget all the stuff that she has accomplished. I mean, she's basically started the Today Show on NBC and was the first woman to break through with 2020. And I mean, she's a lot. I mean, we use the word icon lightly sometimes, or I mean, we overuse it, and it doesn't really apply to everything and everybody. Barbara Walters low key is iconic. Like she's the real deal. So we send our love and condolences to her family, and then also from the hip hop side, bro. Shock of all shockers, man. Gangsta Boo is gone. Like that, I gotta be honest, that blew my mind. 2023 is on some bullshit so far. Like it's really okay. Like it's doing some good things. It is doing some good things, but also, you know what I'm saying? Like, calm down. Just calm down, please.
Acting real 22-ish is what
right, it's giving out some real 2020 vibes though. Like,
was there a cause of death? What did they announce a cause of death for her?
They haven't, which has me concerned because
for who?
Gangsta Boo.
Well, allegedly it's leaning toward overdose.
See, that's what I heard. I wasn't. I hope that's not true, but I understand. Gangsta Boo led a hard life. She led a hard life, and Memphis is a rough place to grow. So
Memphis.
All that damn Jerry curl juice.
It's the Jerry curl juice that gold teeth that is really distracting in me.
Nope.
So yeah, those are the people I wanted to give a quick shout out to. You guys, am I forgetting anything or anybody before we go? Do we have any updates? Al, I know you probably been updates. Okay, well then, as they say in the church, all minds and hearts are clear. We're gonna lead this praise again. Shout out to you, D-Cobb, man. You are in my mind, you're the GOAT, bro. For real talk.
Anytime, I enjoy it. So
yeah, man.
It just gives a platform or a place to just give honest truths to the reality of the sport. It's
exactly
a lot of what is said and happens. People take and run away with, and it's like there's just some hard truths that need to be talked about. So
yeah. Well, again, man, we appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you very much. Obviously appreciate my crew. I guess I gotta see the U of L score at some point here today. I have not. So let me just say full disclosure. I have not. We have set up the shows for this week, but we haven't because of the Damar Hamlin situation. So we're kind of fluid this week. We're just going to see how this unfolds. If it unfolds in a really positive way or whatever, then we'll probably get to the schedule that we've already set up. God forbid, but if it takes a turn, we already have a plan for that as well. So we'll stay fluid. No shows tomorrow. Believe in the ACC on Thursday morning, and then we'll be back Thursday afternoon. Love you guys. Have a great Tuesday night, and we'll see you.
We're talking